So let's talk modules and how I believe they're going to effectively nerf a lot of top tier, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. But welcome back to yet another Talking Head video, but of course, this time we're going to be in the dev server talking about not only the newer modules, but how they're going to change up top tier, most likely for the better, while some might see this as a complete nerf. I know the community is kind of divided on this subject, and I can completely understand as to why that is. There are some vehicles that, in my opinion, should have waited a little bit to get it, seeing that they're not doing so hot. And when I say they're not doing so hot, I mean America top tier. But as always, before I dive into the details of today's topic, I do have to let you know that this is the dev server. A lot is subject to change and some things aren't complete. I mean, I really wanted to show you these modules in action, but unfortunately, upon taking this out, they just weren't ready. I'm sure it was mentioned in the dev server or the dev stream. I unfortunately was asleep during the entirety of it, and I have yet to really take a look into it, even more so when I have complete access to the dev server. So take everything I'm going to be talking about with a huge grain of salt. I mean, a huge one. Gaijin might remove it. They might add new things. I mean, I already know there's a bunch of vehicles that haven't been added yet. I'm pretty sure the T80 UE1 is coming into the game as well. So look forward to that, I guess. So with all that being said, let's start off with the Americans and some of the changes they got with the Abrams. Now, I'm gonna say this, America top tier is not doing so hot. The Abrams is an incredibly easy vehicle to destroy, so having something introduced into this vehicle in particular doesn't really help the situation, as you'll see right now. A lot more things can break. As you see, the commander optic got an extension apparently. I don't know what this really means down here. I don't think it's going to affect it too much, but you do have a hydraulic pump, which if you knock this out, you basically disable the vehicle. And seeing that it's in an area that doesn't normally see too much action, ideally you want to shoot up here to knock the crew out. If you shoot down here for whatever reason, normally there would be not enough spalling to kill the crew. And I can't say that for a fact, of course, because I've done this many times where it has spalled, but there's been those rare occasions where it doesn't. And now you have something critically important down there that will render this vehicle completely combat ineffective. But if we move over to the Germans, surprisingly enough, the Puma got some changes. I didn't really expect this. I'm sure they made a mention of it at some point, but I didn't expect it. Check this out. They got a huge horizontal aiming drive. I mean, this thing is gigantic. Remember that small one we had, or we still have right now? Yeah, it's definitely gone. But if we zoom in right here, here's the interesting part that I found in all of these changes. It actually gives you details about what it affects, and that is a nice quality of life improvement and change. If you disable the FCS, provides for the operation of the module and VD. So if you kill this component but not the crew, you kill the thermal sights on this vehicle, which is awesome. Here's another one too. Driver controls got its own module, controls and indicators of the battle vehicle movement control. So even if you fail to kill the driver for whatever reason, but you break this module, the vehicle will cease to move, which is very interesting. A lot of vehicles I'll be talking about today have this same one. The 2S38 is one we'll get to in a quick second. Moving up just a little bit, you can see that there's also the auto loading mechanism for this thing. So if you, for whatever reason, say 20mm or with the 57 shoot this thing, it breaks it, it destroys the auto loading mechanism, which is very detailed too. Very nice. Gaijin, you guys did good. Going back a little bit further, we have the electronic equipment with details. If a failure occurs, the operation of the above equipment is blocked. Well, the below actually, the IRST and the laser warning system. So if you knock this out, which is pretty exposed in the back of the vehicle too, you disable the laser warning receiver and the optical tracking, which is cool. And you can damage all these modules too. So I assume if you shoot up here, you'll probably break the system in its entirety as opposed to over here. I think Gaijin should modify that a little bit, but I feel like it might be a little bit too complicated. But let's go over to Russia really quick, which they got the biggest change of all. Now, who doesn't love the look of the T90? Man, this thing is gorgeous. But if we go into the X-ray view, you can see right now all that extra dead space. Oh yeah, it's filled. But here's the thing. If you shoot a T90 in the side, or if you shoot a T80 in this case, which we'll get into in a quick second, tell me you haven't had this experience where the shell goes right through, maybe blacking out some ammunition, and the vehicle continues fighting on. That is not going to be the case anymore if you shoot the center of it, and if the vehicle for whatever reason does not blow up, the auto-loading mechanism will break, which means this vehicle will not be shooting back at you. Now, will Gaijin follow through with this and make it, say, a hand crank system? Because you can manually load this thing outside of the auto-loading mechanism. I have no idea. But as you can see right here, it is a huge mechanism, which means any penetrating hit to this vehicle might disable this gigantic piece of an autoloader. But do keep in mind, the T90's autoloader is surrounded by spall liner and RHA. So you have to hit this thing almost directly. How will it affect the main game is beyond me. But if we go down to the T72B3, which doesn't really have that much armor in the carousel, it's the exact same story. Same thing. If we go down to the T90, same thing. If we go down to the 9.3 T72A, the exact same thing, which is very interesting actually. And then going on to the biggest change here, the 2S38. Now, don't tell me you haven't shot at this thing and shoot all through that dead space and nothing happens. Well, that's not going to be the case anymore. In fact, look at that ammunition. Just look at the stowage of it. If you crack this thing in the center, it's gonna pop. Now, normally you'd want to shoot near the crew, right? That's what I do. Shoot this, maybe the fuel tank might eat it, whatever. But now if you shoot in the center, oh yeah, this thing's gonna break. Here's the auto-loading mechanism. You also have the electronic equipment. Same one found as the Puma for the most part. The tracker, the laser warning system, and then you have, actually I think that's it. Yeah, that's, dude, I really love this, right? If you shoot the front up here, the FCS, it breaks the system. You break the driver control. It does the exact same thing as mentioned on the Puma. Now, the radio station was modeled out pretty well. I don't know what this is going to do. Is this going to disable your crew's chat? Like, hey, here's the target in the middle of the field, right? Attack the D point, etc. Is that going to break it? I have no idea. But if we go back just a little bit, you can see there's a power system. So if you shoot this, say with a 50 cal, let's just say it goes through, right? And you crack open the power system, it's going to cause a failure for not only the FCS, but also the gun stabilizer and the IRST tracking or the gun radar, which is interesting. I think this is the only one. I don't think the Puma has one. No, it does. I should have mentioned that at the beginning. Yeah. So this is going to be wildly interesting. Is this the nerf to the 2S38? Oh yeah, absolutely. But I believe it's a nerf for the better. But to those who think Russia is getting the crap end of the stick, don't forget, Western vehicles or NATO vehicles also have a new flaw, which is their own auto-loading mechanism. Now, they don't have the fire control system. They don't have all this neat stuff that you would find with the previously mentioned vehicles, but they do have this right here. Now, under normal circumstances, even if you shot at this, right, or in the current ones anyways, if you shot at this, the vehicle would likely blow up or the ammunition would detonate, engaging the blowout panels. This vehicle would be very ineffective. Now, even if you miss the ammunition by that much, which happens more often than you think, right? You shoot a little bit further back and you think, oh crap, I hit dead space, nothing's gonna happen. Now, you can destroy the auto-loading mechanism. The same can be said for the French, as you can see right here. And tell me you haven't shot the Leclercs and you hit all this dead space and nothing happens. Also, I'm just now realizing, damn, you guys have a lot of fuel. Is this newer? No, this has been here, right? But damn, dude. Fuel explosion much? Also, before I forget to mention this, the same can be said for the ZTZs, the VT4A1, the 99A, which is the exact same thing, which means don't get shot at in the center. And that does it for when it comes to the newer modules coming into the game. And it's something that Gaijin is gonna have to bring in more of as the game progresses on. So most likely newer vehicles that you see in the future, more light tanks, more MBTs, of course, every single one of them is likely going to have some sort of new module. But do keep in mind, Gaijin has a terrible habit of not introducing certain modules for existing and otherwise newly introduced, say, aircraft. There's a bunch of aircraft from World War II and above that have had placeholder cockpits for years. In fact, since pretty much the game came out, even though they made a promise of adding that. I don't fully expect every new vehicle to have some of those new modules, but there's a good possibility that every single one we'll see will eventually have one. And let's be real, top tier right now is kind of the hot topic. At least it is for my channel anyways. But I'm very curious on what you think, and try to be civil about it. I understand this is gonna nerf a lot of vehicles, and I know a bunch of you guys are probably not happy with this. I'm sure I'm gonna read that in the comments, but let me know to the best of your own civil ability what you think about some of these changes. Did they need to come? Were they necessary? I believe they were. That's just me. I like realism. It's gonna hurt a little while, and I know the win rate of Russia is probably going to drop just a little bit, which also, by the way, the BVMs or the TADBs did not get the mechanisms, which I found interesting. This might change in the near future, but for the time being, I like the way Gaijin is currently going. But the question is, do you? Again, let me know in the comments. And if you guys happen to have enjoyed this video and you want to support me further as a creator, don't forget to check out my 3% discount link. As per usual, you save money, I get paid. What's not to love? My Patreon is also free. There's a paid tier to it too, but if you guys want to see some behind the scenes stuff, Patreon is an awesome place to go do that. And if you're a channel member, you get early access to all of my base content about 12 or so hours before it releases to the masses. And that's really it. So again, I hope you guys did enjoy everything. Thank you so much for putting up with my talking head stuff. And I will see you not only in the next video or even the streams, but most certainly in the new Seek and Destroy update. Also, a lot of you guys do play that game. It made me so happy to read those comments. Thank you. I'll see you next time.